Okay, so here we go again. So this one is about Cash's Well, or well number 5 in Vange in Basildon, Essex. So Cash's Well gets its name from Edwin Cash, who in 1899 started opening up wells around the area of Fobbing and Langdon Hills and Vange to draw water out of them, and he set up the Vange Water Company, and people used to go there for mineral water, and it was meant to have good health properties. And this industry carried on till 1924 when it shut. Now Vange Well number 5 is actually in the wooded area, which is now Langdon Hills Country Park. What we're going to look at today is an incident that happened there in the 80s, but also about the other little ghost stories that we have around there and what could be causing these. So Cashwell number 5 is situated, as I said, in the lanes or the country park of Langdon Hills now. And at the top used to be a sanitarium for younger children that used to look after them. And what actually happened was that the sanitarium apparently leaked down into the water system and poisoned the well. People got ill from that, and the Cashwell closed. And this was sort of the end of Edwin Cash's industry in the area. But it's quite an ornate building. If you look at this, it's not what you'd actually expect of a normal well. It's got sort of like almost a Roman construction around it, with an open roof that I guess it would have had glass panels in the top of it. All there is now is left is a frame that makes it look quite spooky. And I know growing up it was one of those areas that you could go to, and there'd always be ghost tales about there and strange things. There's always a thing about going up there and being up there late at night in the dark and see what you could see. But also know that some local groups used to go up there, and the rumours were that it was practicing of black magic, or people thought it had magical powers up there and they could sense power and power lines and all this sort of stuff. One of the reports, or the most common report, is the sound of children coming down towards the well. Now this is said to be up to 20 children that come down from the sanitarium that are meant to be haunting that area. I struggle with that. I don't see no record of anything tragic happening there. I'm not saying it didn't, but I can't find no record of that. But people often say they can hear children around the well, or even somebody stuck down the well that is crying. I mean, now the well is filled up, but you can actually stand on it. Although the day, and you see in my video that I've taken here, the well was actually flooded. But it's quite a weird area now. Underneath, there's a big gap underneath the well where it looks almost like the floor's going to collapse down on it at any time. So I'm not sure how safe the structure is. It's a shame it is smothered in graffiti now, but I remember back in sort of the 90s it always was different types of graffiti back then. But it used to be a very, very common place for teenagers to go and hang around at the night time. And one of the rumours was that if you went there at midnight, you would see a ghost form in the centre of the well, and it'd come up and possess anyone that was near there at the time. And this what led to people in the 80s, I think it was around 1986, and we have Jackie and James, who are the people that are really affected by this. And so I'm going to read part of their story, and I'll put my own thoughts into this as well as we go along, and see what you think about what you make of this. So in the summer of 1986, Jackie, James and a few friends decided that they were going to go up to One Tree Hill and into Langdon Hills where the old Cashwell was. Now the rumour was that you could get extra powers there, so they took things up there that were sort of like, they thought they were a bit like witches. So they used to take up stuff to make potions around there. And I'm not going to belittle anyone. People have their different belief systems, but they were into that, and I guess people were, and still are into that sort of stuff. But they went up there to try and make a health potion. They were up there, and there were 6 of them around the well. And what they'd done, they set a little fire over the well, because, as I say, the well was always filled in for quite some time, but there used to be a grate on there, I believe. So they made a fire around the well, and they all started doing whatever they were doing. And they said they could hear footsteps approaching around the side, and they felt as if they were encircled by a ring of people around the outside of the well. And you can see by the video that I took, it does look quite a creepy place, and it is out in the middle of nowhere, and it's all trees around there and a ditch down there. So after about 5 minutes of them sitting around the fire, as I said, they could feel what they thought was a ring of people standing around that side. They said the atmosphere got very, very sort of depressing, and they felt as if there's a lot of pressure building up inside the well. And Jackie started saying that she could see different colours in the flames, and she thought a spirit was trying to communicate. A spirit was trying to communicate with her, and she started calling to the spirit. Now James says that he see something jump out of the fire and hit Jackie. Jackie threw herself back, and for all intents and purposes was paralysed. She had her eyes open and she was mumbling something, but no one could really understand what she was saying. And she laid there. It was like 10 minutes went past, she didn't come out of it, and she's still laying there. Now, going back then, this is a time obviously when we didn't have mobile phones, and all the groups started panicking. One of the young lads took it upon himself to run up to the top of the hill to where there were some houses and called for an ambulance, and they managed to get Jackie out onto the main road and for the ambulance to take her just a short distance up to the hospital, because the hospital was literally just at the top of the hill, Basildon Hospital that is. Jackie stayed in this catatonic state for 12 hours. When she came out of it, she couldn't explain anything that happened to her, and all she said was during that time she was just having these visions, and other different images that come into her head and different voices were coming to her head, and she wasn't aware of other people around her that she'd been there with, and it was all different people. She said she's seen an old gentleman there, and there was children around her standing over her looking at her, and they were asking her questions, pointing fingers at her. And this is where I have to tell you something. They were doing magic mushrooms. They used it as part of their experience. It's sort of like, was it a bad trip? Now, these people were experienced. They took these and they said it enhanced their experiences. I'm trying not to be overly skeptical about this, but if you are taking that type of stuff, then of course you could expect weird things to happen. But hearing upon this, a group of other people decided that they were going to go and try the same thing. Now, James went along with them. Now, James didn't do magic mushrooms this time. He stayed with the group. There's 12 of them in the group, and they went up there and they all sat around the outside of the well, and they were, what they say, were casting spells and had dolls and things that they were doing to try and draw spirits out. And again, James said that flames were coming out of the fire, different colours. This was witnessed by 2 other people in the group that pointed out, and another girl passed out. And again, the same thing happened, that she laid on the floor. This time she laid on the floor shaking and screaming out people's names. Not names that people were with them, but names. And she kept saying, the children, and pointing out as if there was people around her that were there. And she kept shouting out the children, and she was almost as if she was staring at them, as if they were looking over her. And she kept trying to move her head to side, but she'd been paralysed. She found it very, very difficult. She was just literally almost like nodding, shaking her head. They again managed to get her out and take her to the hospital, where again she remained there for 12 hours before coming out of this. Now, of course, this was quite well reported, and it just added to the myth of the well. And because of that, more and more people decided to go and try this around the well and see what happened. Now, we can only take people's accounts of their experiences, and more darker things were happening up there. People were saying they were being attacked. So they was going up there late at night, sitting around there, and they felt that people were coming in and attacking them in there. Not physical people. No, these were spirits that were coming in and throwing them around the place. And there's some old video footage on VHS that is floating around somewhere on the internet. I've not been able to track this down, of people inside the well where they might be being attacked by a poltergeist or a spirit, and she's got the girl up against the wall and she's screaming. But this seems to be a very, very common report of this what's gone on. In 1990, a few residents got together and they decided they were going to go up there and have a look at the well and see what could be going on. Obviously, they found a lot of drug material up there, wrappers and at the time with glue bags and things like that. And it became a bit of a, I guess, like a party den up there. A lot of teenagers would go up there and drink and do whatever up there, as teenagers do. But while they were up there, and they were very, very sceptical. They were more like trying to solve the trouble that was going on around the area. So they went up there just thinking they was going to clear some kids out. While they were in the actual well, they said they see someone go past the window in a completely white dress and round the other side. And to the well, as you look at it, it's got some windows on the side. And they see this person keep flipping around the windows, and they got faster and faster, and they couldn't keep up with the track of the person going round. They said it was almost like a whirlwind going round, but it was just one person that was doing it. And then a wailing noise started, and these residents there thought they were quite level-headed and couldn't imagine what it could be, but they were really spooked. So eventually they decided they was going to make a run for it out the door of the well. So they ran out and they got as far as they could, and then they turned around and looked back. And what they said they could see was around 15 of these people in white dresses standing beside all the trees around by the well. And that this completely scared the life out of them, and they run back to their car and left. Now, when they look back about it, and when they were talking to other people, they put it down to just a bizarre group of people going up there performing witchcraft or rituals that they happened to stumble into, or perhaps they were going there to do these rituals, and these gentlemen were already there, and they decided to scare them off by doing this. There's a rational thinking behind it. What I can't sort of put my finger on is why there would be this haunting around these wells. Now, of course, they're over 120 years old now, so there is going to be a lot of history around there. And I'm not saying that bad things may not have happened around that well. It is out in the middle of nowhere. We don't know. We don't know what could have gone on. There's no evidence. I can't find any police reports of really horrible things happening there. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I struggle to put my finger on it of a reason why this could have happened. And looking back in history, I know there's a sanitarium was up the top of the road. It, as far as I know, it had a good reputation. Nothing untoward went on there. Cholera outbreak did happen, and I guess people did die from that. Could it be that they are the ones coming down to haunt the well? It would, I guess, suggest or answer why they're wearing a white gown or a white dress. Perhaps that the hospital wear during that period, the hospital gowns that they would have worn if they were in the sick bays. So you start trying to grasp at things to make an understanding of what could, if you're looking for the paranormal side, that is. For the rational side, we can probably find a rational explanation for most of the things, for magic mushrooms to subliminal messaging, or that I'm going there and this has happened before, and I don't want to say put on acts, but I guess you know what I mean when I say they get caught up in the moment. And if you've ever been on an investigation, it happens. Yeah, you know that it does happen, and you've had your suspicions when you've been doing investigations that someone isn't being truthful, and you'll be kidding yourselves if you haven't. You may not want to talk about it, but that's the truth. You know, you do wonder if people are making things up when you go on this, and did they really hear that noise? So if you're anything good at trying to work out truth behind stuff, there's no point in lying to yourself. It's, you know, if you want to have proper evidence of paranormal investigations and paranormal happenings, you've got to question it. It's, you know, these stories, they're great stories. Some of them I can't explain. You know, some of them I can't explain. I can't rationalise some of the stuff that happens. No, there's an instance just after this in the 90s where a family were up there during the daytime, and their kid was just running around the well and pointed out at a little girl. That he said, "Who's the girl?" The family looked round, they couldn't see a girl. And you know, it's not saying that there hadn't been a girl there and she'd run off, but the boy pointed at a girl that was inside the well, or on the path by the well, that wasn't there. So things like that, for me, have more stake in something paranormal happening than perhaps these visions and people being possessed around the world side, especially doing things like magic mushrooms. I know people say it allows them to be connected to by the spirit world and blah blah blah. I'm not knocking it, honestly. If you do that and that is what you do and that's what floats your boat, fine. It's but for me it goes against the rationale of proper examination of what is going on. Now, I like the history. Edwin Cash, he put these wells in there, and he was great a business mind. Now, he used to be the licensee of the Angel in Islington, so he's a great sort of entrepreneur in what he was doing at the time. So he was quite successful. I know his house down at the bottom end of Vange, I can't remember what it's called, it's just slipped out of my mind. Was still there, and there's wells dotted around Fobbing. I said this is well number 5 in Langdon Hill, so we know there's others. Now it's linked to a lot of other ghost stories, that area. Now, it goes through to Fobbing. Fobbing's a part of Thurrock, but Fobbing at the time ran right way up through Langdon Hills, right way up to Great Knightley's in Langdon. So all of that all that did come under Fobbing. So it was a big manor. So a lot of things like the coachman that went down the Fobbing High Road that's been to haunt that. Again, that's all included in that sort of area. I guess the other point to note is obviously in Dry Street at the top of the area of Langdon Hills, there's the old pub. And again, being near a pub, stories are told, truths are embellished and stuff like that of weird ongoings and that sort of stuff. What I don't get much of is any reports of sort of like ghosts around the sanitarium area. But all saying that is roughly where that ball of lightning went across. If you look at my other videos, and we know of another one or another ghost that's maybe quite a recent one that I don't wish to talk about in this video. I know there's people that are still attached to that death there that don't want me to speak about it, and that's fine. But but this one is one that you can go up to, drive up to the car park at One Tree Hill, go across the top of the field, walk down, and you can follow the footpath down. It is quite muddy this time of year, although it's beautiful bluebells all the way down there now. So that would be if you park in the main car park at the top, cross the road, head straight over the road, and then bear left, and you follow the hill down. That takes you down to the cash well. So yeah, go and have a look for yourself. Maybe do it over night time and see if it's creepy. I know Paranormal Essex or Essex Paranormal, I don't know what they're called now. I know they've done an investigation a few years ago, and they do mention about ghost children and other stuff. They've got a YouTube video out. It's worth tuning in and have a look at that, see what you think it is. I'll try and put the link in my description for them. Have a look, because they do a full investigation now, and see what you think of it. I mean, you got to make up your own mind. Go and have a look, see what you think, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye. What are you doing?